gentlemen, turn your speakers up. It's time for the On the Mark Wrestling Podcast. Turn up the bass. A podcast discussing all things AEW and WWE. Oh yeah! Let's meet the hosts. First, a man hailing from the hub city in Indiana. He goes by @TooSweetKyle on Twitter. The host, Kyle Gagliardi. And your co-host, hailing from the Valley of Lake Tahoe. He goes by @JimTuck89 on Twitter. Jim Tucker. And last but not least, hailing from the cornfield somewhere in Indiana, the full-time part-timer, Ian Garavaglia. Turn up the bass. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram @PodOnTheMark.
What is going on, everyone? You're listening to the On the Mark Wrestling Podcast, hosted by the Marks, for the Marks, and I am your host, Mr. OTM, Kyle Gagliardi. And my co-host this evening, for the second week in a row, is Mr. Cincinnati, Eric Robinson from the Junkies Podcast. My friend, how the hell are you?
OTM Cincinnati rides again, buddy. I wouldn't have it any other way.
I'll tell you what, I love my co-hosts, but if I were to handpick a co-host of choice, I think I would choose you. I think I would.
Oh, I appreciate that, bud. Thank you. Thank you.
You're supposed to say it back to me now.
Well, you know that. Okay, I love you. You know that. However, podcast dad is going to hear this. All right, I can't. I can't take the heat back.
Other than my co-host, so other than your co-host, you can say to me, even though you have a lot of special guests, including this week, you had some big names, right, coming on the show.
Yeah. The frat daddy Bryce Cannon will be joining us for our Clash of the Castle prediction show tomorrow night. It's kind of a weird week with the podcast dad on second shift, but that is perfectly okay. Sometimes the body needs a little reset, and we're no different. But hey, I wasn't going to pass up the chance to talk a little Clash of the Castle with you. Yeah. I can't talk right now, and I've only had one sip of my high noon. So,
is it the new high noon, or is it just the traditional high noon you got there?
No, this is the tea flavor.
That is the new ones. There. What do you think of those? I haven't tried them yet.
Dude, they're solid. I am a big fan. Not carbonated, very easy to sip. So yeah, big fan.
You know, we're not live right now. Obviously, if you're reading the ticker down at the bottom, this is going to be running at 6 p.m. tonight, this Wednesday. So if you're watching, I appreciate you guys for checking us out. But I don't know if you've ever heard of the drink Long Drink by chance.
I don't think so. No.
Drink. So okay. I'm going to have to get you in on those because it's one of the products I sell, of course. But number 5, I think, in the canned category. So it's starting to creep up on high noon. So you're going to have to get them to try it.
Hey, don't threaten me with a good time. Let's do it. Hey, we're getting you some Skyline too.
Oh, dude, we're gonna have so much. I mean, we talk about this all the time whenever we collab between our two shows. But SummerSlam weekend, and it's funny, and we talked about this before as well. We both were in attendance last year for SummerSlam in Detroit. Mm-hmm. Did not know each other. It's crazy to think a year later we are actually going together.
Yes. Hey, I mean, I absolutely love it, man. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, we've been with the network for like 6 months now, give or take, and it doesn't. It feels like way longer than that. I think with just the sheer volume of work that we do together, how active we are in the group chats. Well, how active most of us are in the group chats.
Of the core 3 that are active, but let's be fair. Tuck's coaching / being a dad, and Ian's just a young kid. I don't know what to do with that guy.
Well, hey, he reacted today. That's a step in the right direction. So
he gave you a quote
more than I've seen him do. Yeah. Oh, okay.
I was gonna say. I was gonna lead into it. A quote tweet about some # main event moves happening. So before I get all my shilling done and plug my stuff, why don't you tell them what you guys just accomplished today?
So we are the official, one of the official sponsors anyway, of ETU's Summer Madness 2, coming July 27th to the Mecca, in Ridgefield Park, New Jersey. ETU, fantastic promotion, a lot of up-and-comers and established talent. Marcus Mathers is going to be headlining this show, I believe. But be on the lookout for some cool content from the Junkies. We're hoping to have some of the talent from the show on our show in the lead up to it. So, just be on the lookout. Follow at Junkies Pod for all the updates.
Love it. Absolutely love that. And of course, at Junkies Pod, like you said, you see it on the screen right there. It's also down in the ticker. No excuse to not be following these guys. And we're trying to follow in their footsteps here at OTM. So if you could follow us on X, we want to get to 1,000 followers too. I know you've been there for a while. I don't know what your tricks of the trade were, but if you want to tell me, I'd appreciate it. You just follow everyone, don't you?
Yeah, it's following, it's reacting. It's if you see something cool, comment on it. Like it's just a very, very simple formula. We're simple guys.
Yeah, but your approach is kind of different. Like you don't use your personal Twitter to really talk much about wrestling. You're kind of just live tweeting off of the podcast account. I feel like if I maybe did that, we could get more interaction, but I created such a loyal following. I think I've been on X now for 13 years, and I've been live tweeting every WWE show since then. It's pretty.
Yeah, cool. I've been on there about the same time, and I definitely have not. So
you don't tweet as much as me. I'm very active. I don't know if you hate it or love it.
No. I mean, I expect nothing less from you at this point, quite frankly. Yeah,
I'm a single man, dude. I don't do anything with my life but watch wrestling and talk wrestling, which is why we are here. But since we are going to be talking about the PLE that is happening from Glasgow, Scotland this weekend, we are running a promo code at the OnTheMarkWrestlingPodcast.com. If you use code CASTLE, you will save 10% off your order this week/weekend. It's not just OTM stuff like this tapestry you see behind me, this shirt that I'm wearing right here, this coffee mug that's kind of hidden right there. I don't know if you could see it, but we also have some Wrestling Junkies stuff. We don't have those coffee mugs, but I know you guys do.
You do not, but I'm a shameless plug. I just like to let people know that they're there, you know?
They are there. And if you follow at Junkies Pod, I'm sure you can find that merchandise. But also, a lot of main event merch is available at the OnTheMarkWrestlingPodcast.com. This show, your show, of course, being a part of the network, make sure you're showing some love. We're doing some great things. A lot of exciting things coming up at mainevent_net. Support us and support the show at the OnTheMarkWrestlingPodcast.com. Use that code CASTLE, save 10%. Eric, what do you say? Why don't we get into this card?
Let's do it. I'm ready, willing, and able.
I love that. Definitely. But before we actually get into the card itself, where are your excitement levels at? Out of 1 through 10, how are we feeling for this Saturday?
Give it like a 6.
I was
6
and
and a
that
half.
sounded like a 5.
Yeah, it's I had to think about it. I think I think we've got 5 matches, 6 total, give or take. And we've got 4 fellow Scotsmen and Scotswomen that are going to be on this card. Alba Fire, Isla Dawn, Piper Niven, Drew McIntyre. We already know right now 3 of those 4 are not walking out with their championships of any kind.
Do we know?
I think that we do. I mean, I do not see beyond. I mean, we'll get into the predictions, but I'll just say that I think there's only one that has a legitimate shot of walking out of Glasgow with a championship, and it's not any of the 3 that I just named.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think I'm going to surprise you very, very soon because my mind's been flipping back and forth, and I'm honestly more at like a 7 if I were to give it 1 through 10, because I do love these international PLEs, and we know that this crowd in Glasgow is going to be electric, especially for those talents that you just named. And honestly, all these matches look really good, and I think there's been some solid storytelling to go behind it, but let's go to one that the storytelling hasn't been as good first, and it is for those women's tag team championships that you were just talking about. Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, the champs, taking on Alba and Isla Dawn, and of course, Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. First off, I don't even know if you saw this, but unfortunately, Alba Fire's mother passed away this week tragically in a car accident, so my condolences go out to her and her family. I don't even know if she's going to be able to compete. That's a lot to ask out of someone, Mr. Cincinnati.
Yeah, no, seriously. Seriously. Thoughts out to her and her family. I definitely didn't hear that. Yeah, no, that's always tough, especially in the lead up to a show. I mean, I haven't necessarily seen. I didn't see that story, but I also haven't seen anything today to indicate that there's any sort of major change in creative or anything like that. I mean, but if there is, that certainly would lend an explanation as to why. That's for sure. But yeah, no, I hate to hear that.
Yeah, and once again, we're recording this on a Wednesday, so things may change by the time you are watching or listening to this podcast. So take that with a grain of salt. But going back to Alba and Isla, I know me and you had a back and forth conversation about it this past Monday. They had a match and put up absolutely zero offense against Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. It was basically a squash match, 24 hours removed from Shayna Baszler losing to Lola Vice in NXT Underground. That just doesn't sit right with me, and I think you're going to agree with me on that.
Yeah, I mean, not just losing at Battleground, she got knocked out at Battleground. It's, and I said this on our preview show. Knowing that she's going to have the championship match this weekend, we both had a feeling that Lola was going to win NXT Underground, but we wanted to see how Shayna was presented, knowing that she's going to have a championship match a week later at an international show. They absolutely delivered on Shayna and the role that she played in that match with Lola. Some of the outside antics, I could have done without, but overall, very solid for a match concept that had never been put on pay-per-view before. So totally fine with it. But there is absolutely no reason that Alba and Isla should have lost on a go-home show, especially by submission. If I had the pencil, I think that I'm putting both of them in separate tag team matches. I would have, had Alba and Isla against, Caden and Katana, and then maybe found, maybe Ivy and Maxine for Shayna and Zoe, just so they both can come into this match hot, as opposed to one choking out the other. But I mean, let's be honest. Nobody sees Bianca and Jade losing this weekend. No way.
So this was the one where I've actually had some thoughts, Mr. Cincinnati, because, I mean, we've talked about it before. Eventually, I think we are going to get that Bianca Belair versus Jade Cargill match. And I believe we are only 52, 51 days away from SummerSlam. And to me, that seems like the perfect time to do that one-on-one match. SummerSlam's your second biggest PLE of the year, so why not do it there? I can't confidently say that Alba and Isla or Shayna and Zoe are going to win, but don't be surprised if they do, because isn't this the perfect way for them to drop their titles, not even to be involved in the finish?
This is true. I will gladly give you that. I think my thought on why Bianca and Jade continue to retain is, Triple H, since he has taken over, loves lengthy title reigns. It's just kind of been part of his booking process. That is something the women's tag team division has been severely lacking since the inception of the championships. Is that, I mean, essentially the belts are snake bit, essentially, is the argument that people want to make, and I would agree with that. I wanted to see the Kabuki Warriors be a dominant force for those championships, but they ran up against Bianca and Jade. So I can excuse that short title reign, but I need to see these two just have a dominant run with them. And I agree with you that there's money in that match. And while I would love to see it in Cleveland, there's much more money in that match in Vegas.
You're not wrong, sir. You're definitely not. But selfishly thinking, that's what I want. So, like, going off of that, I want Alba and Isla to win. I just don't see it happening. If there were to be any team to upset, I think Shayna and Zoe, you could put the titles on them and then progress with the Bianca and Jade stuff. Regardless, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to still go with a retain here. I think Bianca and Jade are just too dominant right now, and you still got some time until SummerSlam. You have Money in the Bank coming up that they could drop the titles, or maybe they just drop them on a SmackDown. I don't know, but safe to assume that your pick is also going to be Bianca and Jade?
1,000%.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Number one on your power rankings if you were to confidently predict.
Number one with a bullet.
Fair enough, man. I'm just saying, if it happens, I tried to warn you.
I will be the first one to eat some humble pie if that does take place.
I'm probably gonna be wrong. I'll tell you what though, that's the good thing about WWE nowadays. I feel like when Vince was running the show, things were very predictable, and I would get probably 90% of the matches right. But with this new era, I'm gonna use that phrase once again.
And I'm
I think that's the
every
beauty
time
of
it's
it
said.
all. Yeah, there you go. And it really is an unpredictable era. So that's one thing I definitely can appreciate. And I think the unpredictability moves on forward to this match because I think you can also make a case for both of these guys. Sami Zayn, the Intercontinental Champion. You see the beautiful white title behind me. Notice how I switched it out once again.
Do like that.
Sami Zayn's only had that title for about 62 days or something like that. But he's going to be taking on Chad Gable. And we talked about it last week, Mr. Cincinnati, how well this story has been. And it continued to progress this Monday on Raw.
Yeah, I mean, this one, I love Sami Zayn. I still think that Chad should have gotten the WrestleMania match with Gunther. But Chad Gable, I think this is his time. He does walk out with the Intercontinental Championship. Reported or rumored brand new contract. Big push incoming. He's doing the best work of his career right now, and it's elevated Alpha Academy to a status of where we care about everything that's going on with every single member of it again. And anytime you get Sammy involved in those stories that really tug at the heartstrings and are these crises of character and self for people, in which he can kind of be that 2 cents of I know you, I know what you're capable of and what you can do, and that's not you, and that like this isn't your personality, don't let him influence you. These are always money. So I think that it is finally time for Chad Gable to get that moment that he deserves, and it will happen at Clash at the Castle. Chad Gable, new Intercontinental Champion.
I'll tell you what, I would love it. And something about Sami Zayn just getting involved in factions, it works. The guy just knows how to tell a story, that's for sure. I am going to disagree with you. I think Sammy having that match against Gunther at WrestleMania was the right call. I mean, Sammy's just been the model of consistency for the WWE. Him and his best friend, Kevin Owens, have just been outstanding these past couple of years. So I think he definitely deserved that moment. And we wouldn't be getting this story without it. You got to think about that. Yeah. This is probably the best story right now in professional wrestling.
I'll have to sit and think about all the stories going on in professional wrestling right now, but it's up there. It's
Liv
up there.
Dom, you could say. Fancy. Random comments about Liv and Dom.
I don't dislike it, but yeah.
I just love the IWC because any little bit of sexuality that is put on TV, everybody's horny online. Come on, guys. Like, let's relax. This is just TV. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Okay, she straddled Dominic Mysterio. Everybody's bookmarking shit now. It's Wild West out there.
Seriously.
The good news is, though, likes, you cannot see what people like anymore on X. I don't know if you know that.
No, it's probably for the best. Who knew all of this over a hotel key?
I'll tell you what, I'd be snatching that hotel key myself. I'm going to be honest, I mean, Carlito's comment, too. He's like, that's cool. Is he wrong, Mr. Cincinnati? That was cool.
No, so Podcast Dad said that was probably the best line that Carlito has delivered since his return almost a year ago. So, yeah, no, it is a fascinating story. I like that that Dom's playing hard to get. I do think in the end, if it's a Stockholm syndrome sort of thing or what remains to be seen, but I do think he does eventually end up aligning with Liv in some way.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. But going back to this great story over the Intercontinental Championship, I think I'm going to agree with you. And this is exactly what I want to happen. I think Chad Gable absolutely deserves it for many of the reasons that you have already said. I mean, it's just, if it's not now, then when? I feel like you would just be dragging it out if you were just deciding for Sami Zayn to retain his title here. Yeah. And I don't think that does anything good for Sami. I think people would start to turn on him. So to further develop this, have Chad Gable get his moment. I believe he's never won singles gold in WWE, correct?
He has not, and I'd also like to point out he has finally shed the ghost of Shorty G. I mean, it's not often that people can successfully shed a bad Vince McMahon gimmick and return to the promised land, but that seems to be what it is that we're experiencing here. I mean, he's getting the Kurt Angle comparisons. He's getting the "you suck" chants in his entrance, and that's without any sort of gimmick indicating that the crowd should do that. They just instinctively know that this is the second coming of Kurt Angle. So let's see where it goes.
He's got that aura, as the kids are saying nowadays.
Yep.
You see how I'm picking up on the slang? I don't understand it all the time.
Proud of you.
I understand that one. But you brought up a good point, how it's elevating other people in the group, too. I mean, no disrespect to Maxine Dupree. She isn't the greatest in-ring, but she is getting there. She is trying. Yeah. And I think that now that you have this emotional attachment to her with Tozawa, with Otis, that's only going to create a bigger star out of her, Tozawa, and Otis going forward. And speaking of Otis, I think the overall consensus would be that that's probably the direction you could go for SummerSlam for the Intercontinental Championship. Is that what you think is going to be happening?
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't rule it out, because I know that a lot of people are going to wonder whether this turn is going to happen or not at the Clash, and I don't think that it should. I mean, it definitely could. I just don't think that it should. We're starting to see how Chad Gable is just as the number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship, but they can definitely take it a step further with like what lengths is he going to go to in order to hold on to that championship that Otis is eventually going to snap and say, you know what, no, I got next.
Yeah, and I think he does. And once again, wouldn't be totally shocked if Sami Zayn retained. I think it's the right time. It's the perfect storm. Let's advance this storyline a little bit more. Both of us are going with Chad Gable to become the new Intercontinental Champion. And if you would have told me that 4 years ago, or if you would have told me that when he was tagging with Jason Jordan, I would have been like, what? That guy got to single stardom? Good for him.
Yeah, especially with what they had planned for old JJ and Kurt Angle, Everybody thought he was going to be the breakout.
God, why do you have to bring up all this bad shit? First Shorty G and then that?
But hey, we did get Gloriously Gable in between both of those, so that wasn't the worst run.
This is true, and we also got Jason Jordan producing matches, which he's obviously great at. He's still around doing that, and he's an IU legend. He went to the same school as me, so I got to give him some love for that.
I like it. Okay.
Yeah, we both are going with new champs there for the IC title. Let's move on over here to the SmackDown Women's World title, where Bayley is the champion, and she is taking on Scotland's own Piper Niven. We give AEW a lot of gripe for randomly throwing people into title matches, so here is me acknowledging that this is another random challenger here in the WWE. There's no rhyme or reason to it, but I will say this, Mr. Cincinnati, especially last week from the promo that we got from Piper Niven, I think I'm buying into her as a single star.
Yeah, no, I've always been a big fan of, even back to Mae Young Classic days. So the Dewdrop name change was very, very heartbrearking there for a while.
Stop with this, man. You're bringing up
shit. But that's the thing is if we go through most every match on this card, we can think of some just terrible gimmick that they have had to rise from the ashes against, and like looking at where they're at now. Yes, exactly. This will be a fun match. I think the largest story right now would be Bayley Nia Jax at SummerSlam, as opposed to Nia Jax versus Piper Niven. That's actually a great match idea. I might steal that for 2K24. Yeah, but right now, when we're looking at SmackDown's women's division as a whole, as great as Piper Niven is, do I think that she's ready for that single spotlight when she's still doing work with Chelsea Green? Probably not. I think that I would want to see a definitive split of those two, and have them go their separate ways and chase singles gold, mostly because there is that rumor floating around that the main roster is also going to get some women's mid-card titles, and I think that would be great for Chelsea Green. Piper, I think, is definitely world title ready. I just don't think that it's going to happen here at the Clash, unfortunately. Bayley is just, she's legend status now. She got the WrestleMania win. I think they want to see kind of how far they can take her. Part of me is also, when we're looking at potential contenders for the women's championship, Charlotte Flair is going to be back sooner than later, and we haven't gotten a proper Bayley Charlotte Flair feud either. especially now that Bayley is a single star again and doesn't have damage control. You can do a lot with those two and play on the history that they have with each other. There's just a lot more that you can do with Bayley as champion right now than you can with Piper Niven, I think. So I'm going to go Bayley.
Man, I love that mention. I love when anybody brings up Charlotte Flair. I am a huge Charlotte Flair mark, as everybody that listens to OTM knows, and that is a match that we definitely do deserve. 2 of the 4 of the 4 horsewomen, it would make a lot of sense. But yeah, Bayley's got an obstacle here with Piper Niven. But you brought up Chelsea Green, and I think the reason Piper's not winning is because if you look at that pairing with her and Chelsea, I think Chelsea's definitely the one that shines more out of that pairing. So if you really were going to give any world title to anyone, I think Chelsea would probably be the better pick. But I do think Piper definitely deserves this moment. It's going to be nice for her to get that home, welcoming, kind of like Rhea Ripley did. Obviously, she's not going to be winning like Rhea Ripley did. But yeah, Bayley as a whole, she needs something to dive into. And I think that's definitely going to be Nia Jax after this. Because let's be honest, ever since winning the title, Bayley hasn't really been given much. And you could make that case for multiple champions right now in the WWE.
Yeah, and we've talked about this on our show too when we kind of look at, we'll look at an average SmackDown or pay-per-view and say, oh, well, where's so-and-so, where's so-and-so, where's so-and-so? And, what we sometimes forget as fans is, Triple H does want to make these smaller cards outside of a big 4 or a big 5 kind of show. So you can't get everybody onto the card, as far as a pay-per-view, every single pay-per-view consistently. So I think we do have to kind of get used to kind of this rotation of talent as time goes on for different shows and kind of placing an emphasis that way, especially with new TV deal with Raw going to Netflix, SmackDown to USA. There's got to be a little bit more of an emphasis of putting those performers on premium television, maybe on a go-home show, making those shows around the pay-per-view matter more. So that way there's still some interest and intrigue and advancing stories. Give them a big fight feel, even if it's not that weekend stage.
Yeah, no, well said. Totally agree with you there. And I don't know why this thought just popped in my head, but I was randomly browsing Ticketmaster yesterday, and I found out that SmackDown is coming to Chicago next Friday, and I can't decide if I want to go. I mean, it is my birthday week, so it'd be a nice present for myself. Yeah, I know.
You should. I didn't realize those were that close.
Yeah, it's the post SmackDown Clash at the Castle. What really could be worth seeing there? I don't know.
There might be some static.
Yeah, but he is on Raw. But you think they would do it? Just
when has that ever stopped them?
Yeah. Well, the WWE draft was a big deal this year, didn't you know?
Cody was drafted to SmackDown. He was on NXT 24 hours ago. So
I loved his appearance on NXT, by the way.
It was cool. I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was a real good time.
They teased that 25-man Battle Royal happening next week with multiple locker rooms. Say his name and he appears.
Say his name.
How many times are we going to say that? We have to talk this into existence eventually, right?
I mean, seriously, it is it is insane how good Shawn Michaels is at booking NXT right now, and I am just, I'm very, very impressed, and I just really, really want Joe Hendry to show. Like, that's probably like the number one that I can think of that I'm like, yeah, I gotta see over in NXT.
Yeah, I would like to see the Rascals over there too. Maybe that'd
be cool. Yeah,
Wes Lee. I think that reunion would be major money. And speaking of Shawn Michaels, I saw a tweet earlier today, and it literally just said Shawn Michaels finding out his likes are private and he can go to work on clicking the like button on the next generation of NXT stars, and it's Braun Breaker barking. Look at it. I'm showing you right now. It's just Braun Breaker barking. There's the guy right there. I'm going to give him the shine on our show.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, no, he's living his best life right now.
He's doing some great things, man. And I know some big names that cover, professional wrestling, like Kaz from the Masked Man show on the Ringer Wrestling. He even tweeted it out yesterday. He said NXT is the best weekly television show. Would you agree with him?
On paper, yes. I still want to sneak in the occasional Monday Night Raw there because they've also been very consistent as of late too. but that is definitely one I feel like I have to watch every Tuesday as opposed to a Dynamite or a Rampage. SmackDown, I usually end up exactly. Yeah. SmackDown, I usually end up watching the next day on Saturdays anyway, because it's Friday. Collision is on the milk carton.
Yeah, here's the thing. We're marks. We watch a lot of wrestling, but me and you at least do things on Fridays sometimes.
Yeah, we do.
I'll say sometimes for me. You're usually a busy man. But you're also in a relationship, so that
yeah. No,
I don't know if I'm allowed to break the fourth wall.
Nah, dude, nah, you're good. You're good.
I was gonna say if I can cut that. We're pre-recording this for a reason.
Dude,
by the way, I know somewhere the Great Brown Hope's commenting about Nia Jax in the comments. I'm just gonna give him a middle finger of love. Love you, Great Brown Hope. Keep up the great work on the blog. Don't forget to check it out at mainevent_net. But
look at you thinking of everything.
I'm always on top of things, man. I tell you what, I think I did the math the other day, over 600 podcasts in my life. Wow. 600.
Okay.
It's a lot. Okay. It's a lot of me just talking on the internet that people can find.
That's fine. I like it. I'm a fan.
And I'm not canceled yet. How about that? I've made it. Well, not yet. I haven't made it, but we're having a good time, right? That's all that matters.
We're having a great time.
And we still got 2 matches to talk about. So let's get into the big matches here. This one having a special stipulation, the I Quit match between the WWE Champion Cody Rhodes and the phenomenal AJ Styles. Obviously, this match was set up with AJ Styles' fake retirement. I saw a lot of people complaining about it. That's something we just saw, but I don't know if you guys know this. Those of you that are watching or listening at a later date, we recycle storylines in professional wrestling all the time. And if it works, it works. And I thought that segment to set up this match was executed great. I don't know how you felt about that.
Yeah, I definitely did too. Podcast Dad disagrees with me.
But that.
No, that's fine. I think because we've heard so much rumor and speculation about, kind of how much time is left for AJ Styles. He and Rey Mysterio are very much probably at 50 is going to be when we hang it up. So we got to enjoy what we can while we can. They executed it perfectly. I know that Chris wants to employ some logic of Cody. Shouldn't you have seen that was a trap? But
he's the typical WWE babyface. They don't see that shit coming.
Exactly. But he likes to put on that logic hat sometimes. And while I agree with him, yeah, I know. This message has been brought to you by Kayfabe. So, with Styles, the attack was perfect, and I like the Cody's ratcheting up the intensity to make this the I Quit match. Honestly, this is the match that is kind of selling the show, I think. Yeah. We know that McIntyre is probably going to main event, but Cody versus AJ has been a much more interesting story than Damian versus Drew, and that's been going since before WrestleMania in some capacity. So it's just, I don't know. I think that this is going to be a really, really fun match to watch. I'm always going to hold out for a little color on pay-per-view, but probably not going to get it. But a guy can dream. But
be any time to do it. New era.
Yeah.
Drink. There we go. I got my Diet Coke sipping. I'm not like you. I can't just pop a beverage during the week. You're just built different, sir. But all that being said, I think you're going with AJ Styles to win here, correct?
Nope, going with Cody Rhodes. Yeah, no. Let's not get it twisted. He is the guy that is not changing anytime soon. I don't know. I would like a larger story for him. I mean, I Quit seems like a pretty definitive stipulation, so I wouldn't expect this to continue into Money in the Bank or SummerSlam. I think that's I don't know if I had talked with you about this as far as kind of not necessarily who I think is going to win the briefcases, but as far as kind of how they're going to be divided between the shows. I think that SmackDown gets the men's briefcase, Raw gets the women's because of how the King of the Ring shook out. I would just inverse those for Money in the Bank. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. I don't think we have talked about that for the record, but I got to go with Cody Rhodes here. I think that's the obvious choice. It's probably the number one confident pick on the card. You talked about an I Quit match being the end-all, be-all of the feud. You also think of like steel cages, Hell in the Cells. This is definitely that stipulation as well. But I think we're definitely going to get some involvement maybe from Michin. We know Michin has been on NXT a lot, but I would like to see her involved in this as well. Maybe she is the reason AJ Styles says I quit. It's not even him that says it. Or maybe Gallows and Anderson get involved too. I'm not quite sure, but I do think this is definitely going to be a great match. We know what these two are capable of. The last time that they went at it, it got a 5-star from Dave Meltzer, which obviously means everything in the world of professional wrestling, as I say that sarcastically. But nonetheless, very excited for it, but I think it's safe to assume that Cody Rhodes is going to retain his title here against AJ Styles, which then takes us to one final match. I agree with you. I think it is main eventing. It should main event. Yeah. And it is Damian Priest, the World Heavyweight Champion, taking on Scotland's own Drew McIntyre. And we know a couple years ago, Drew McIntyre got a moment in front of his home crowd against Roman Reigns. It was unsuccessful with getting that title from Roman. Here he is with another shot at the world title, this time being against Damian Priest. You talked about this feud. You know what? This is more about a feud that's happening with an injured superstar than it is between these two. More people want to see Drew McIntyre face off against CM Punk. And as much of a great moment it would be for Drew McIntyre to win in his home country, I don't see it happening here. And I know that's going to make a lot of people mad, but I do think CM Punk is going to be the reason Drew McIntyre ends up losing this matchup. Maybe he's going for that kick, and then right when he's about to, CM Punk's music hits, just a brief distraction, Damian Priest retains. And you talked about Money in the Bank. There's a name that I think is now my favorite to win on the men's, and that is Finn Balor. Finn Balor, we saw take that hotel key card. I think he's a sneaky link right now with Liv Morgan. I think you continue the division between the Judgment Day with Finn Balor. And if Damian Priest retains his title here against Drew McIntyre, could you imagine Finn Balor holding that briefcase, cashing it in before SummerSlam, and them doing that rematch at SummerSlam? I think that would be money right there. So I'm going off of that thinking. I think you could do CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre without the title at SummerSlam, and then you could do Priest versus Balor for the World Heavyweight Championship. So my pick here is Damian Priest to retain. What about you, sir?
First of all, I am gagged at the fact that you use the phrase "sneaky link."
Am I wrong?
First of all,
hey, I got all the slang, brother.
I mean, I appreciate it. I appreciate you keeping up with the youths. Priest definitely. Yeah, it's easy to say that McIntyre should win this and set up the feud with Punk at SummerSlam. That feud does not need the world title. It didn't start with it. It doesn't need it to finish it. So that's not to say that either of these guys won't be world champion eventually. They will. But I just think that right now this is a blood feud, and this is just something that's just uber personal. And that already means that, whenever they first get their hands on each other, you can already up the stakes more so than it would have been if it's a traditional, singles match to start it off. I don't think that we've seen one yet this year, but that's definitely a feud that blow off should be the Hell in a Cell treatment. That'd be something cool to bring to Berlin. But with Damian Priest, I feel like they haven't really scratched the surface of what they can do with him as a champion, not just as far as what he can do in the ring, but as far as carrying a story. He's still kind of wrapped up in this Judgment Day drama, and it's hard to tell how much of this was thought out before Rhea Ripley was injured, because I know they're essentially having to adapt to that major injury, hence the Liv Morgan storyline, her involvement with Judgment Day. We've seen her being flirty with Dom. We've seen her getting out of a car or getting into a car with Finn. I mean, there's these Easter eggs being thrown out there. But Judgment Day, I think they do kind of need to get back to basics of trying to figure out their identity and kind of their idea for how they want to run the Raw brand. I think that, there's a lot more money in Finn Balor winning the briefcase. He's already signed a new contract, which means he's, likely due for a massive push once Judgment Day has finally split.
Look at Chad Gable. I think that's the same instance right there.
Yeah, and Triple H has definitely been trying to get Finn Balor back to that point since he broke that shoulder in 2016.
It's crazy to think about that he was the very first Universal Champion, and
Yeah.
at the time, probably arguably the hottest thing in professional wrestling.
Yeah.
The Demon character was massively over, and then they ruined the Demon character at WrestleMania 39 by losing to Edge.
Yeah.
When I was there and I was at WrestleMania 39, I really was dead set on Finn Balor winning that match. And I think what Edge did in WWE with his return and what he's doing now in AEW is fantastic, but that's a big blemish right there for the WWE because Finn Balor is still one of the top guys in the world.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, he's what, 44?
Let's put
something like that.
Siri. Hey Siri, how old is Finn Balor? 42. There you go.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, there's still plenty of tread left on the tires. If there was ever a time to put him in a world title program, it's now, because it is already with a group he's already established with. That's very clearly having some identity issues, especially without the presence of Rhea Ripley. And that just tells you how important she was to that story and what they're doing. Because, I mean, you lose Rhea Ripley and you gain a Carlito.
Hey, Carlito, this is the most,
this
is the most interesting he's been since he's been back.
No. That one line was the one thing that he's liked about Carlito's return. I'm not saying, not the Judgment Day program.
It's something that he wasn't doing. It's better than him being an LWO. Yeah. Because you know how that goes. Yeah, Braun Strowman's going to join the LWO soon. You see that? I'm joking, by the way. That's not going to happen. But
I mean, you can say that all you want, but I mean, if Owen Hart can be part of the Nation, Braun Strowman can be part of the LWO.
To be fair, I think Braun Strowman is dating Raquel Rodriguez outside of in the real world. So
fun.
He's got ties. He's got ties to the LWO, a Jace, I guess you could say. But the world title scene is very interesting going into SummerSlam. We just named off 4 people that could hold the world title by the end of the year. And that makes me want to ask you this question to close things out. Do you think hot potatoing that title between guys like Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, Damian Priest, Finn Balor, hell, maybe even Gunther or Sami Zayn would be beneficial? Or do you think they're going to stick to the mold that they've been going with and running with long title reigns?
I don't know. I think they were probably in the era of lengthier title reigns. I mean, I'm not expecting everybody to have a Gunther type run where it's 600 plus days that you're a champion. But the world heavyweight title picture right now is definitely more interesting than Cody Rhodes is right now. Because after AJ Styles, possibly Randy Orton for SummerSlam, but then after that, it's kind of who's next. And at least, we've, on the Raw side of things, we've named 4 or 5 different people that could be contenders for the world title, and any number. And we're not even forgetting the fact that the front runner to win the briefcase right now is main event Jey Uso. We're forgetting about the fact that Ludwig Kaiser also wants the briefcase. They're like
LA Knight.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that there's a lot of moving parts on Raw that can kind of give you that spontaneity more so than we're going to see on SmackDown right now. SmackDown, they're basically like, okay, Roman Reigns was champion for 4 years, maybe had 31, 32 title defenses during that entire 4-year span, and now it's Cody Rhodes wanting to just, basically defend everywhere he can.
And you can't incorporate the bloodline into the Cody stuff without Roman Reigns. I mean, it would just be a mess, in my opinion, if you had Solo Sikoa go up against Cody Rhodes right now. I think they're better off just doing their own thing with Bloodline 2.0. But you look at that SmackDown roster after AJ Styles, and you mentioned Randy Orton. That's probably the obvious choice and the obvious program for later on in the summer. But the other names on there aren't that appealing. I mean, you got an Andrade, who you have a lot of work to do, who's the WWE Speed Champion now, which, how do you feel about that? I think that episode debuted today.
Damn it, I knew I forgot something.
Mr. Speed, what are you doing?
I feel like I need to just start putting that in my calendar for every Wednesday at noon. But I mean, I'll probably just watch it the second that I'm done here now that you've reminded me. But yeah, with Andrade, I think and I think this goes to a larger thing, a larger I don't know the right word for it, but I'm just going to say concern for lack of a better word, because rumor has it Pentagon potentially might be WWE bound. He's been working to try to buy that name so that he can go use it in WWE.
We talked about that last week, so check out that episode for sure.
Biggest fear would be, we're just going to put him in a program with LWO or LDF. Like,
yeah,
you don't necessarily need to keep all of the luchadors together, and that's just what it feels like they're doing, quite a bit. I also, and I don't know, maybe this is just a long-term storytelling thing for when Ray is actually like ready to be done. It's time to end the Ray versus Dom feud.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to get that rematch. Yeah. I thought we were getting that rematch in Philly this year just to kind of bookend it and be done, but that doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, even if they want to save that for Ray's final match ever, that doesn't mean that you need to keep them orbiting each other, until you're ready to pull the trigger on that. You just don't need to.
No, I totally agree with you. But one last thing, I have the SmackDown roster pulled up. Let's just do a quick yes, no, or maybe. I'm going to give you names, and you can tell me if you think that they could get a world title shot against Cody Rhodes. How does that sound?
So when you say they could get a world title shot, is it just that they're contending for it, or do I think that they could actually beat Cody Rhodes for the title?
Let's be honest, nobody's going to beat Cody Rhodes for the title, but if you want to say that they would...
He does have that Super Cena energy.
But, like, could you see these people having a match with Cody? Let's start with Andrade. Yes, no, or maybe.
On a SmackDown, yeah. Not pay-per-view.
Fair. Angel Garza.
No.
Angelo Dawkins.
No.
Apollo Crews.
No.
Yeah. All right, so far I'm agreeing with all these. Ashante the Adonis.
I thought he was in a tag team with Cedric Alexander. What happened to that?
I don't know. They gave up on it, obviously. Baron Corbin.
Probably like that one. Like that one's more likely than like all the others on the list.
Here's one that I actually think I would say yes to, and of course he's got to be healthy. Bobby Lashley.
Oh yeah. If you're gonna do that, that might be one where he has to leave the pride behind and go full heel. They tried that with the Street Profits. Heel Street Profits just don't work. So I don't think they're going to try that again. You can even keep B-Fab with the Profits, especially if they're not going to align Bianca with them anytime soon. B-Fab's a great addition, but Bobby, yeah, he's got to be a monster heel if he's going to get that shot with Cody. But yeah, I could see it.
Agreed. Carmelo Hayes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The way he showed out at on that SmackDown match, yeah.
I agree. Don't think he'd win, but it'd be a match. The rest are kind of just tag guys. I was going to say Johnny Gargano, Pretty Deadly, Giovanni Vinci. Those names are a no. An interesting one, I mean, this is the last one I'll probably bring up. Kevin Owens. I know he's a face, but, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they did face versus face one time.
Yeah, but Kevin Owens also has the capacity to stab anybody in the back at any given moment. Friendship. He's yeah, exactly. He's got that Randy Orton energy. So yeah, that one can be either face versus face or face heel. But no, KO knows how to get himself ready to be a bad guy in a program like that with Cody Rhodes for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree. That was fun. There's definitely some potential matchups there, but nothing that really jumps off the page quite like Randy Orton. So I think that's what we are assuming, that we will get Cody versus Randy at SummerSlam. Regardless, Saturday is going to be a big indication of what we are going to see in the next coming months at Money in the Bank and at SummerSlam. So I'm very excited for this Saturday. I unfortunately will not be watching live, so this goes to you and to everybody watching. Do not spoil anything. Yeah. I will be at Wrigley Field, I shouldn't say unfortunately, because I'm going to have a good time. But, I don't miss WWE PLEs often, Mr. Cincinnati. It's going to be a weird feeling.
Yeah, I have to go to a tux fitting for a wedding that I'm in November, so I'll be watching on my phone. I fully plan to be watching by a pool, but life had other plans, so hooray marriage.
Poolside, Mr. Cincinnati. That could be another name of it.
It works for me. It works for me. I love this time of year, man.
You're living the life, that's for sure. And
I'm about to go do that. Like after we're done here, I'm gonna get ready to go down to the pool.
Shit, I don't blame you. It's hot out here. It's like 90 here. I don't know about over there.
Yeah, no, it's pretty gross today.
I gotta go play 2 wiffle ball games in 90-degree weather tonight. So please pray for me.
Godspeed. I got you.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate you joining me. This was a blast as always. OTM Cincinnati is a combination that is unmatched here in the Main Event Wrestling Network. And speaking of the network, guys, don't forget to check us out on all the socials: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. We are everywhere at @mainevent_net. Very easy to find. And if you did not know, if we reach 1,000 followers before SummerSlam weekend, we will give away one item off our merch site, and that is any item. It could be a tapestry, which is $50, by the way, for free. All you got to do is follow us on X. It seems like a win-win. I don't know about you.
I would agree. I mean, follow, get chance to win a free T-shirt. I'm all for it.
Yeah, good stuff. And if you want to just support the show, on the markwrestlingpodcast.com, use promo code CASTLE at checkout. You will save 10%. Sir, any final remarks before we sign off here? Episode 199 for OTM. I don't know if 200, the idea that we originally had, is going to be happening next week, just because I'm not 100% sure who my co-hosts are going to be. But if I do get Tuck and Ian, there will be a Forbidden Door card coming up. But speaking of things coming up, what's in store for the Wrestling Junkies this next week?
Yeah, so we will have Bryce Cannon as my guest host tomorrow. We're also going to run through Clash at the Castle, a little bit of Dynamite, just wrestling in general. Let me check this calendar here. Let's see.
You got a full book calendar, don't you?
Dude, I know, yeah. So Absolute Intense Wrestling, their announcer Dustin Albrady will be joining our show this upcoming Monday to talk about a show they have coming up this weekend, or next weekend, excuse me. I think that's all that I've got on the books right now. But as always, follow @Junkies Pod for some more updates. We're always tagging people in cool shit. Let's just enjoy wrestling.
Exactly. And as my co-host would say, it is a great time to be a professional wrestling fan. Thank you, everybody, for checking out episode 199 of the On the Mark Wrestling Podcast. Make sure you're following us at Pod on the Mark on all the socials. I will keep you updated there in terms of what we are doing for episode 200. Sir, once again, it was a pleasure, and thank you all for listening to the On the Mark Wrestling Podcast.